Good morning, world. It is April 13th, and I'm going to give you guys a tour of my front yard food forest garden that we started about 3 or 4 years ago. This is very different than a typical garden with raised beds and rows and annual vegetables. This front yard food jungle actually mimics a forest. So it's mainly a bunch of perennial fruit trees, bushes, vines, and cover crops where there's different layers. In this style of gardening, we don't really have to maintain it much more than just trimming every once in a while and harvesting all of the food. Nobody has to water, nobody has to fertilize, nobody has to put any input, just like a forest. Nobody waters or fertilizes the forest and it still stays green. The key to all of this has really been the mulch. We started with literally just a typical Florida yard, which is a complete sand pit, with just some patchy grass, and we got as many dump truck loads of local tree mulch that we could possibly get a hold of. Probably about 20 to 25 loads of mulch dropped in our front and backyard. I use chipdrop.com, which is pretty cool. It links you up with local tree service companies who are trimming the local trees and wood chipping them, and that tends to give you the perfect material to add onto your soil. Mulch does so many really awesome things for your garden. It works as an insulator, so when it's too hot, it keeps it cool. When it's too cool, it keeps it warm. It works as a sponge, so it holds in moisture, so it can not rain for months and you'll be okay because it holds that moisture really well. As well as it breaks down to the perfect soil to grow food, especially if you get the local tree mulch. Those local trees have perfected the climate and your soil for maybe hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. So to get your local tree mulch, break it down, put it on your soil, it's going to break down into the best stuff that you can get. This is just my front walk when I walk out of the front yard. As you can see, we got a little rack of bananas, but wasn't the best rack we've had, that's for sure. This little tree right here is actually supposed to give off little cherries that taste like peanut butter. Got that one from a friend. I'm gonna walk through the yard, show you a quick little tour of all the plants that we have going on. I may not know all of the names because I got some of them from friends, just gifts, but I know probably about 95% of them. This tree is actually an avocado tree right outside my front yard. Every time I ate an avocado, I was just throwing the seeds out and throwing the scraps out by the bananas because the bananas like a lot of extra scraps. And actually grew a massive avocado tree. Then we got a big old papaya tree here. And then this little bush all around it here, this is Calandra. It usually gives off little pink flowers. We don't have any going off right now. That attracts beneficial pollinators, bees, and actually fixes nitrogen into the soil, which is pretty cool. That's like fertilizer. This is a quick little view of the whole front yard. That's all bananas. That right there is actually a mango tree that I ate, propagated the seed, planted. It's about 2 years old. And you see it's got some new growth, which is pretty sweet. And you see a little fat rack of bananas back there. There's a cactus. Pretty sure you can actually break that down, saute it, and eat it. That right there is a Turk's cap hibiscus. Gives off some nice, pretty edible flowers. Back behind it is that Calandra I was telling you about. That gives off those pink flowers. And this was a whole layer of Mexican sunflowers, which is like this. These are Mexican sunflowers. This whole layer was a whole row of it to block the front yard. Give us a nice hedge, give us some privacy, and they grow really fast, and you can just cut them and break them down. And they are one of the fastest and easiest ways to build your soil. Because pound for pound, they're more nutritious for the soil than chicken manure. And it literally breaks down, adds so much nitrogen and all sorts of other nutrients to feed the life in the soil. This right here is a really delicious cherry variety I got from Pete Canaris. And you can see there's a bunch of little fruits on there. see there's a bunch of fruits on there, but fruits ain't ready yet. This tree here gives off cherries that taste like cotton candy, and it grows so fast as well. Here's a mango tree that we actually got mangoes on. Pretty exciting. Little baby mangoes are coming through. Right, there's a mango, and that is a coconut tree. Got this thing pretty small. It's been growing a couple years. No coconuts yet, but it's definitely getting a lot bigger. There's some tree spinach right there. This is another cherry tree, but this one is Barbados cherry. It gives off really nutritious cherries, loaded with vitamin C. Got a big old rack of bananas up there. Here's some more Mexican sunflowers so you can get an idea of what it looked like just last week. It was like that all the way down. And then here is our just row of banana plants. There's probably 3 or 4 racks on all these bananas, which is pretty cool. There's a little cranberry hibiscus that's about to flower. These leaves are really edible and pretty delicious as well. You can see this cotton candy cherry tree is flowering like crazy. You can even start seeing the cherries wanting to come out. Then we got this mulberry tree with a bunch of fire mulberries on here. And the black ones, the darker ones, these are edible. And then here you have a special variety of avocado I got from Pete Canaris. Delicious variety, spiraling ginger. This plant right there is a sweet almond that literally smells like Febreze. Literally smells like Febreze. One of the best smelling plants I've ever smelled. And it gives off a pretty flower, and that really just pulls in all the bees. Right here is just our ginger and turmeric bed. We just got a random pineapple in there too, but all of this should be growing up. Give us some fresh organic ginger and turmeric, which is pretty exciting. And then we use ground covers, which is some local natives. Those are actually some sweet potato leaves right there, aloe vera, and some sunshine mimosa. The sunshine mimosa is really cool because it gives off these pretty pink flowers, as well as it fixes nitrogen or fertilizer into the soil. And when you touch it, they know about it. So there's a quick little tour of the front yard food forest. This has literally been one of the coolest and most exciting things that we've created, of just starting with a complete sand pit and then creating a full entire ecosystem. And it's really cool to create a refuge or a home to so many local life, like birds, bees, insects, even some snakes, a bunch of lizards. Just pretty cool to just have a local hangout of all of the local life around here, which is pretty rad. And I believe this is something that pretty much everybody could do as long as they have a yard. Doesn't matter where they're from. I've seen this type of gardening all the way from Utah to Colorado to Arizona, and even in the deserts of like Jordan, England, anywhere you can think of. Doesn't matter your temperature or climate. You just have to focus on the plants that thrive in your area.